regular basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about Horn Jam.
The Horn Jam.
When did you start? Okay, so if I'm correct, your PhD topic is related to that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, partly. Yeah, it incorporates, I guess, some concepts from the Horn Jam. So the Horn Jam is a community horn ensemble based here in Adelaide. We have players from all across the community. So we have some professional players and freelancers who work professionally around town. We also have tertiary students from the Elder Conservatorium. We have anybody essentially over the age of 18 playing community orchestras and bands around town. So there's sort of everything from amateur players right through the professional range, and we gather together and play music sort of in sessions, I guess, or projects throughout the year. So yeah, it's unique, I suppose, in the sense that it's, you know, been running now, I think, this will be our 7th year running, so which is great. And yeah, the community's really been really engaged with it and built up over that amount of time. So yeah, it's been a really positive thing, I think, for that community to to engage with each other.
You're on the IHS Horn site.
I put myself on that. Yeah.
What's IHX?
The International Horn Society.
Oh, nice.
So if people come here, they can join us. You know, it's like.
Wow, where is it based?
It's ostensibly based in the United States, but it does have now, members from like a crazy number of
everywhere.
countries. Yeah, it is
like
an
every
international
horn player.
society. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your PhD topic?
My PhD topic is called Horn Ensembles in Australia. It's basically it started off actually. I wanted to talk about I guess these kind of hidden communities in Australia, which are the amateur players and the community organisations, particularly horn ensembles and horn initiatives and horn societies, these single instrument societies for horn players around Australia. Documenting some of those practices and how the horn ensemble has actually come to Australia and proliferated across the country. Yeah. And also its repertoire, which is another really important community that's part of that, people that write for that ensemble and you know, Australian music for horn ensemble. And the purpose of that was to kind of come out of it with some recommendations to help those communities thrive, because, you know, historically they have struggled for a number of reasons, which I won't tell you my whole PhD paper. I'll be here a long time. But yeah, historically a lot of these groups have, you know, come across a lot of challenges in sort of keeping themselves sustainable and operating long term. So the idea was to kind of shine a bit of a light on that and to kind of help them, give them a bit of access to some more knowledge and also some more resources to try and help them, you know, keep local organisations going, keep those local communities connected and operating, so that we contribute back to the you know, international community and also create a bit more of a voice for the Australian horn playing community on that international level.
So that's, I mean, so that's your topic. It sounds very much like very cross-disciplinary based. There's a lot of like social studies to it.
It's certainly got a lot of like this. I've obviously looked in a lot to like communities of practice and stuff like that, and how those communities, you know, there's sort of an element of that in it as well. And then of course there's a slightly more music focused kind of stuff, like the repertoire and all of that kind of stuff, and how that reflects, you know, Australian horn playing as an identity and stuff like that. So there's different elements to it, but it's primarily musicological.
I'm going to ask a very childish question. Does every single city in Australia have a jam?
A jam, not specifically a jam, but
The Adelaide Horn Jam.
Almost, yeah. There's every single capital city in Australia has, in the last 6 years, had some sort of organisation that caters to the community, which is great. Not all of them are still operating. So, but even in Darwin, there's, you know, I spoke to some horn players in Darwin. They were lovely. So there's groups sort of dotted around the place, and there's other groups in, you know, have been groups in some large regional areas as well. But primarily the capital cities.
So, for example, for the Adelaide Horn Jam, there's, you know, a wide range of people playing in it.
Yeah.
And there are kids who are playing as well.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm perceiving the Adelaide Horn Jam is more like it's like a gel that essentially brings people together and play and then outwardly influence, you know, younger generation and also.
Yeah, definitely. I think for instruments like the horn, which are fairly rare, you know, and in a place like Adelaide where there are quite, you know, a small number of students playing, to have access to that kind of group training is pretty invaluable. It's something that I had access to when I was at university because we had 21 horn players enrolled there. The students here don't have that luxury. So for them to be exposed to that kind of training, which is really an incredibly important part of our training, learning how to work in an ensemble, learning how to work with others, learning how to blend sound, intonation, all of those kinds of things. Our ensemble provides that outlet for them by actually including players from the community and other players, you know, that are more advanced, you know, working in the community as well. And it actually gives them something to look at and to kind of, you know, be part of. And I think it's not just important for students, it's important for amateur players, it's important for professional players too, to actually see that we belong to a community and we belong to an ecosystem of music making. It's not
I love
just,
that word.
You know, yeah, well, it's not my word. I've stolen
that from
I've stolen that from
musicians.
some papers that I've been reading. But, you know, I think, you know, we as professional players, I don't think, you know, that's my own opinion, but I don't think that we live in, you know, this kind of bubble. I think we have to be contributing,
absolutely,
you know, back to the education of new players, and we have to be contributing to the appreciation of music within the community through our audiences, because without those audiences and without those students, our industry doesn't survive, you know. And I think it's actually the most important work we do as professional musicians is actually to share the love of music with others and share the education of music with others, because, you know, not just for the selfish reason of our own employment, but, you know, if you believe that, you know, that's an important part of our society, I think it's an essential thing to give back. So I think, and one thing I think is really striking about the Horn Jam is we have a lot of people who are sort of moving into that professional world now, graduates who come and regularly give back, you know, to that community. I think it's very special that, you know, we've actually managed to keep that engagement with those people. You know, they're certainly under no obligation to do so, but I think they, you know, it's part of a culture that we're trying to build. And I think, you know, the more we can create that, then I hope that the students that are going through now will continue to give back in some way, whether they do it here or whether they do it somewhere else.
Elsewhere, yeah.
So it's kind of part of bringing that. Now we're trying to bring in younger students in schools, you know, now that those students are teaching in schools, we have now another generation coming through. So, you know, what can we be doing to keep fostering that, you know, engagement with the instrument and that love of learning and that love of playing music? You know, it's a small cog in that mechanism of our Adelaide music community. But, you know, for an instrument like the horn that really requires, I think, a lot of the time very specialist knowledge, specialist input, it's an incredibly big step towards kind of helping those instruments survive long term.
Yeah, and an environment like such is essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's not just for horn players, it's for everybody. You know, I think you know, what we do is obviously very specialised instrument-wise, but there are other, you know, fantastic community organisations and other, you know, professional organisations that really prioritise this kind of idea of giving back and breaking down barriers between, you know, amateur, student, professional players, which I think is very important to kind of keep that, you know, flowing, that cycle going through. So,
what's the youngest age in Adelaide Horn Jam?
Well, actually, we try to keep our membership above 18, just with the whole so the people that are regularly participating are 18 plus, and that's just because of the whole child safety. You know, navigating that stuff is quite challenging on a regular basis. But we have usually 2 events a year where we invite younger children, players. Yeah, so the Horn Day and also the carols at the end of the year.
Christmas events.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of easy for us to do on a project basis. So whenever we do get the chance, we invite, you know, younger students to come and play. I think we've had some 8-year-olds there, so I think that's the youngest we've had so far.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's, you know, I don't think they should be playing the horn. You know, so we've had some really little kids come through, and then hopefully they come and re-engage with us every year and move up, you know, through the process. So